And here we are.
Hey, y'all.
How is
Spencer.
everybody doing tonight? Oh, hey, y'all, and Spencer. Who all's in the chat? Let's see. Oh, we got quite a few already. Hey, everybody. Cashew, how you doing? Gary. Pat's in there. Mark, what are you doing here? Did you take care of the other Pat's truck already? That was quick. Greg's in here. Hi. Well, anyway, hey, glad everybody could join us. This is actually probably going to be a pretty cool show because Indiana isn't really known for like a whole lot of Bigfoot activity. And the people I got on here are really legit and they've got stuff going on, so we get to hear about all that. But before we get there, we weren't here this past weekend. I was in the woods. Lord knows where Misty was. I ain't gonna tell. Misty, where were you last weekend? Why weren't you on here during the show?
Well, because I didn't go on our trip. They did actually go on one, but I was sick. And not only that, I got up to a flooded barn again, and so I dug a ditch all weekend. Clean barn, clean barn stalls.
Did you really? Did you really? Are you feeling better now?
Not really. I feel like crap. I got up feeling like crap again this morning. But I think I'm starting to get a sinus infection. Too much of that dust where I've been raking and cleaning.
How are the baby goats doing?
Oh my God, crazy and twice as big. They are freaking awesome.
You need to go grab them and bring them in front of the camera. Everybody would like to see the baby goats.
I'm sure they wouldn't.
They'd rather see that than me. Come on,
They would rather hear about Jamie's story. I guarantee it.
Oh, Lord, there ain't no telling which way Jamie's going to go. If you've ever sat around a campfire with Jamie, there's no telling. You can be talking about one thing, Jamie just busts in, starts talking about something else. It's against my better judgment to put him on live YouTube video, but here we go nonetheless. And as soon as he gets sidetracked, I'm gonna have to say something to him. Hi, Sharon. Sherry's on here. Sherry said, what'd she say? She feels bad because she and I were out with her until 5 a.m. Yet look at Sherry busting you out.
She keeps me out all night hooping and hollering and going on, and then I get up feeling like crap.
I can believe that, because if you've ever camped with Sherry, she's so small and she looks like she's just like tiny and frail. And then she's the Energizer Bunny though. And whenever she starts walking, it turns into a run and a gallop, and she just takes off and she's bzz, 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 all around the whole time. Sherry's high energy.
Yeah.
Or Spencer, he's all over the place. Quiet, Gary. Quiet. Nobody asked you. Christy's on here. All right. Well, anyway, let's get this going. So, for those of you that don't know, Hoosier Squatch, Jamie Ginter, he's one of our longtime friends over at Beast and everything. I've gone out with him several times. I've met Aaron before. We were supposed to have one of their other friends on here, but we're going to roll just like it is right now. So, from the great state of Indiana, let's bring on Jamie and Aaron. Fellas,
how you
doing?
How's it going,
How
guys?
you doing?
Good.
Well, what's the weather like up there, y'all?
It sucks.
Yeah, it's not good.
40, gloomy all day. It's been overcast for a week. We had one sunny day, and that was about it. And it's cold again.
Yeah, same here.
Well, it has been decent down here for the past 2 weeks, like mid 70s. One day a couple weeks ago, it got right at 80. And then today, out of nowhere, we got damn snow and a little bit of sleet, and it's cold outside. It's like it always does this in March. You think it's going to be nice. I was getting ready to plant stuff in the garden, and now look at it outside. It's horrible, and I'm so tired of this. But overall, I cannot complain about this winter because we didn't get shit this winter as far as like what we normally do, and it's been really nice outside. So overall, I can't complain, but today sucks.
Yeah, we've not had a lot of snow this year, just kind of hit and miss. So we got no complaints there either, but it's definitely got cold. Pretty cold this winter.
One day it's 70, and the next day it's like 30.
Right.
You sure you don't live in Tennessee?
Yeah.
It's about the same, ain't it?
Yeah, it is.
So I think a lot of people, at least me, but I'm highly uneducated. I think a lot of people think that there's Greg. Calm it down, Greg. We haven't gotten to the question thing yet. Misty, why are you highlighting somebody saying hi? I'm in the middle of
You're not into nothing. You're just talking, so nobody's really listening to you. That's why.
I think a lot of people, I mean, in my mind, whenever I think about like Indiana, I just think about like typical Midwestern, like a bunch of cornfields everywhere. What's the layout of the land up there where y'all are? What's it like?
Well, down where we're at, don't get me wrong, there's corn. There's not massive plantations of corn or anything like that. It's broke up into smaller areas, but you have to get about up where Aaron's at, up around Indianapolis. All the surrounding area around Indianapolis, it's a lot more lower ground, level ground. So crops there are just huge. I mean, there's areas once you get outside of Indianapolis, it's heavier. But as you go south, and you don't have to go very far south, and you start getting into a lot rougher ground, especially north of Martinsville. I mean, Monrovia area, which is north of Martinsville, it's all rough. Martinsville has rough area. And then it just keeps going. I mean, you can literally drive all the way to the Ohio River. But when you get over to the edge, to the state, to the east or the west, now toward Ohio, there is some flatter ground closer near the border from Indiana-Ohio line. But in our area, there's actually a pretty wide area to do stuff. It gets even rougher south down around Borden areas and you remember, man, I can't remember their names. I feel bad. The two New Albany guys.
Stop it. Hold on.
I'm not doing it. You stop it.
Bama.
No!
Bama. Completely. Bama. You're interrupting Jamie, and we all know
it. I thought I was the guy that did that. So anyway, you get it. Like I said, it goes all the way to Ohio River. There was a couple of guys that come to the meet and greet too. They were the two guys that slept over by the electrical outlets at LBL. You remember those two guys that camped over in that area? They were from Indiana. God, I feel bad. I can't remember their names. But down around where they're from too, there's a lot of rough area down in there. Clear down into Evansville. If you're familiar with Evansville, Indiana, we know some people here and there that run that area, and they have decent luck down there. So that's
decent luck with what?
With researching and stuff like that. Vocals.
See, this is why you got to keep him on track. It don't make no sense half the time.
Well, don't listen to him. He treats me the same way.
I told y'all this show. I got two people to pick on because I will bash Jamie in a heartbeat. Just Aaron, I'm gonna just defer to you for the question. So, what's the lay of the land down there? Do you have Bigfoot there? Why is it there? Tell me something there. Actually, before we get into all that, for everybody that has never heard of Jamie or Aaron, both y'all, how'd you even get into the field of boogers? I mean, how did it happen? Tell us something.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I'll start before Jamie goes off on some tangent. So,
good.
I mean, I've always been interested in Bigfoot, right? So I would say, I mean, like a lot of people give the show a lot of criticism, but finding Bigfoot was really like, the first show I ever watched. And if anything, it gets people interested, even if there's a lot of criticism with the show. And I would say like, I don't know, 3 years ago, I started actually like looking at like Bigfoot groups in Indiana, and yeah, just started going out. And since then, I've always really gone out several times a month. So yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And as far as the lay of the land, I mean, Jamie was pretty much spot on. Like Indianapolis, basically north of like Martinsville, Indiana's pretty flat. And then once you get south of Martinsville, it's a whole different, environment, and a whole different deal. A lot of hills and plenty of area for animals to be, for sure.
Well, here's what goes through my head. And again, I'm stupid, but from my line of thought, I mean, Indiana is a major agricultural farm production area, right? So, like, as far as like white-tailed deer population goes, you guys are pretty high. I mean, you've got a lot of deer per capita right there, or per whatever geography right there, and you've got some nice bucks, some big bucks up there. So you would just think that whenever you're talking about something like Bigfoot, you would expect there to be a whole lot of Bigfoot reports in that area. And kind of like where I'm at in Virginia, I've got a ton of mountains, rivers, creeks, wilderness type land. I just don't have a lot of official reports for this area. But that's just my line of thought. And you guys have been doing this together for how long now?
2 years, maybe? One year? 2 years?
We're about 2.
But Jamie, you've been kind of in the subject for a while, right?
Yeah.
So in 2 years, you've managed to, I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that you show on Facebook. I've seen some of Aaron's stuff. Aaron, you have a YouTube channel, don't you?
Yep, and Jamie's in a couple of the videos. It's called Squats Holler. We can definitely put a link in the chat or something.
Yeah, we'll put a link down there. And just so y'all know, Jamie said that he emailed me video footage, but I can assure you, I went back and looked through everything, and I do not see it. And I mean, between you, me, and the lamppost, not calling him a liar or anything, but he's full of shit. Because I went back and looked, and it's not there. But there is video on Aaron's channel. Jamie has posted stuff before on the Beast page for sure that I know of. He might have posted it somewhere else. So what was, whenever you guys got together and you started going out, how many people, like is there a group? Is it just like you guys are independent and you just got together with a couple other people and you're like, let's go out and look for Bigfoot in Indiana? Is that how it happened?
I mean, I think it was through really Facebook groups. It's how I met Jamie, through a different Indiana Bigfoot group. And then we started kind of hanging out and then doing our own thing. And then since me and Jamie really started with just me and him. And then he got Bob involved. And then now there's a couple other people that come out with us as well.
Hold on. You talked to Jamie in a Facebook group, and in your head, Aaron, you said it's a good idea for me to go meet him.
Well, to be fair, I didn't actually meet. So Jamie spoke with another Bigfoot group, and then he came to like the same event I was at. So that's how I met Jamie. I didn't actually talk to him on Facebook first before I met him.
That would explain why you were willing to go meet him in person. Okay. All right. Again.
But let me bring up something here just a little bit.
All right.
He was with another Bigfoot group. He is no longer with a Bigfoot group. He hangs out with me and Bob and Brian and Derek.
So in the Bigfoot world, you're just like a male prostitute that goes out and grabs these other people. That's what we're going with here.
That would be a Spencer, not a prostitute.
Yeah. The only one that come out of a Bigfoot group would be Aaron. The rest of the guys are new guys.
I'm sorry. You knew it was going to go this way when he came. He knew it. He knew it. Jamie knew it. Anyway, so when y'all started going out, like, what was your first? I mean, for either of y'all, not necessarily together, but whenever you're looking at Indiana, again, you have so much farmland, so much waterways through there. How did you? How did you? You should hear some. Greg can come up with some good ones. Don't get him around the campfire. I'm still traumatized. But anyway, how did you narrow down the areas that you started looking into?
I'm sorry. You told me to work the comments, so.
I mean, I think for me, like, BFRO reports are like a good place to start, and then just kind of looking at Facebook groups and people posting experiences in Indiana. And like you said, Spencer, I mean, Indiana's not really. You don't think of Bigfoot possibly being in Indiana, but once you, and it may just be the people in Indiana don't really publicize sightings. I mean, it's just not known, and that may be part of it. But once you kind of look into it, there's actually a lot more reports than people probably would realize.
Not yet. Sorry.
I didn't do that.
I will try to stay focused. Yes, I agree. I tend to think that's the same thing. I tend to think that's the same thing right here where I am. I mean, with the land and everything, I mean, the potential is definitely there. And I see a lot of analogous kind of information that makes me think it should be very active where I am. But whenever you look at like the BFRO or other independent sites, I just don't see a lot of reports right here. But either way, I know that you have them there. So how did you narrow down, like, tell me, if you were talking to somebody that's brand new in Indiana, just now coming into the Bigfoot world, how did you guys narrow down the area? Because here lately you've gotten some good stuff. How did you narrow down where to go, and what was your method of attack for getting in there and getting information or data?
Aaron was already. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, sorry. No, I was going to say, just like we were talking about, I got involved in Bigfoot groups. And obviously, it's no secret, Morgan Monroe State Forest is known, for being, a Bigfoot hotspot in the area around that. So that was really the first place I really, ever hit. When we were talking about finding Bigfoot, when Finding Bigfoot came to Indiana, the majority of the show was in Morgan Monroe State Forest, and they talk about it quite a bit in the show. And it was really just, being in Bigfoot groups and, Bigfoot groups taking me to different areas, and then just kind of going around to the different areas in that area and just finding spots where, we have activity. So I think the big thing is really just to get involved in groups. And like I said, look up reports and see where people have activity.
One of the things that we'll try to do and try to keep in mind is be open to other suggestions from other people too. Like I called you and had you look at an overlay of the area and what you thought might be a nice place. Just do things like that near water. How far away can we get from people? And I don't necessarily think that that's even necessary. That's been rather surprising to say the least, but because we're not making 6 or 8 mile hikes back in to woods where there's nobody around in either direction and you can't hear anything, thinking that we're going to see or hear anything. We would be hard pressed to even do that. But even then, we're not really going that far in. I mean, we went in, I don't know, what's the farthest we go in, Aaron? 2 mile, 2.5 mile. That'd be the max going in.
The one night we were with Bob and his wife, I think we went in about 3 miles or 4 miles, but yeah.
So did you start during the daytime hours? Did you find structure or tracks or something? You were like, oh, this is a good area?
No, we just kind of started going in areas and look at Google Earth, try to pick areas, see where roads were at, see where water was at. That's kind of what I did. And Aaron already had a few spots for stuff that he had been out and dealt with before we met that he thought might be good areas, and people that claim were good areas. And so we hit some of those. We hit some new places. Just like I texted you the other night, Spencer, and said that we got a possible howl out of that area that you thought looked good. And Austin Collins from Ohio come into camp. Him and Aaron camped, and they found a spot. Or Austin thought this one area looked nice to go into, and he recommended we go in there. So when I showed up that evening, we all went in that area, and sure enough, it was one of the best vocals that I had ever heard in there, as far as how close you are to them. It'd make the hair stand up on the back of your neck by all means. But Austin did good. He picked a great area. So he comes and hangs out with us once in a while. And he's real good with maps and getting around, shortcuts, what might be good areas. He's excellent. So he's a big help. But a lot of it is trial and error. We have a lot of other areas that we go into as well, and that are pretty good distances away. So that's kind of what we do. Believe it or not, a lot of it's trial and error. And then when we get some vocals, we try to revisit those areas. And if we continue to get it, or we might think something's going on there, we continue to go back, and it's worked out pretty well for us, really.
Now, are you documenting, like, whenever you get a hit, whether it be a track or structure, or especially vocals and everything, are you documenting, like, when you get it, and can you see any kind of patterns thus far, like as far as the time of the year or the temperature or anything, moon phase?
To a point, and with any video that we take or audio, everything's dated and timestamped. So we can always research it and find out that way. But what we're finding out is a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people say, well, in the cold winter, there's just not much there. The leaves ain't on the trees. That's not what we had. It seemed like ours actually ramped up during a cold season.
It did.
So
Really?
Yeah, which totally surprised me. I mean, me and Bob got some knocks one night, and it was 18 degrees. It was Valentine's Day of last year, 21 February. It was day after Valentine's Day of February 21. Aaron couldn't come with us that night. He had other YouTube stuff going on, so he wasn't with us. So me and Bob was just kind of out pondering aimlessly. Thought we'd get out and try it. It worked. So
see, this is why I need Bob on here, because I need someone else to back up your side of the story. Aaron, I trust. If you had Bob on here, I'd be convinced. But
I agree with you, Jamie. Don't listen to him. We get a lot of activity when it's cold.
Yeah,
a lot.
What was funny with Bob was Bob didn't start going till about January of 21, and that night we went out, and it's just his second or third week of being with us. And I explained to him what was going on. I said, he's just a hillbilly like me. And so he just started going with us. And then the night that we got the responses, and I let him, I didn't let him. He did the knocks. I said, give it a try. So he did it. And sure enough, I mean, we were there for 5 or 10 minutes and heard absolutely nothing. And then he did a knock, and all of a sudden we get a response. And then Bob froze. I mean, it was like a deer in the headlights, because I think Bob was really skeptical about what was going on. And then you'd ask him the same question. He's not skeptical at all now. There's something there.
Well, first of all, you do knocks like at night. You walk out and do knocks, and you're getting responses?
We've not had much luck with knocks other than that one night, to be honest.
Was it was a vocal response?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, not from the knocks. We got knocks back, single knocks that were spaced out, just single knock, I told him I'm the big single knock guy.
So
Well,
you did.
So
Go
there's
ahead.
three. I think we've had three instances, Jamie, of doing knocks and getting vocal responses, and one
Well-
actually was last weekend, right?
I'm talking about a knock response.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, we've had 3 or 4 instances where they respond to knocks
With vocals.
with vocals. I'm sorry. So that's been
That's-
really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, I don't really do knocks. I don't really do calls though either. I mean, I go out with people that do calls, and then, you know, sometimes we get a vocal response. So what was the first thing for both y'all? What was the first thing that you did while you were out looking for Bigfoot in Indiana, and you were like, "Holy cow, you know, I think that's Bigfoot. I think there's something here." What was the first thing that really made you go, "Ah, I think there's a Bigfoot"?
It was about what, Aaron, about the second or third time we've been out. You had Gabby with you, and we had Chin and your dad. We went up on the ridge down
Yeah.
north of the graveyard, and then we went back up on top of the ridge, and I did a single knock and got a response, pretty good distance away, but yet you could hear it, and it vocalized. And there's no coyotes. No coyotes jumped in, and we did that 3 different times over what, 5 minutes span, Aaron? Would you say roughly?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And it responded each time, and I never did any more after that. And we never heard coyotes step in that night. Every once in a while, we get a mixture, of something, and then we get the coyotes. We know what the coyotes sound like, but that's probably the first night it was like, yeah, we're on to something now. So we need to check this area out some more.
You know what's funny is, I mean, because I've been there and I've experienced that myself in person. When you hear the vocals go off in person, you can clearly tell a difference between, that and a coyote or any other type of, normal animal in that area, an indigenous animal to that area, especially if you've spent much time in the woods and, you have a fairly good understanding of, you hear that and you're like, oh, that's an owl or that's coyote or whatnot. So I can understand that. Did you find anything else? Have you ever had a visual? Have you found tracks that were really clear?
Go ahead, Aaron.
I have found one possible track. It was, I think it's been 3 years now, maybe. It was in a different area. And it was, so it's super wide. It was like 5 inches wide, and it was only like 8 inches long. But you could see toes in it. And, I mean, what human foot is, 5 inches wide and 8 inches long.
Right.
Not many. So that was like the only footprint. I mean, we've seen tons of possible footprints, but that one was definitely the clearest, because you could see, some toe imprints in it.
And you only found one?
Only found one. And it's the area that it was the first area I ever went to, really getting into Bigfoot research. And it was really, I mean, just an area that had a lot of activity over the years. So, it definitely makes it promising, I would say.
Right. How close was the track to water?
It was on top of a ridge, and the ridge was probably about 400 yards from a decent sized pond. So pretty close. So obviously it would be a juvenile based on the, the dimensions of it. But like I said, just the width of it was what was really surprising to me.
Maybe it's one of those little people I keep hearing about. Jamie, have you found tracks? Have you had a visual sighting of a booger?
No.
Have you seen eye shine?
We have not really that much. Not eye shine, unless I'm forgetting something.
So what?
No.
So other than the vocals sold you that, hey, there's definitely something here. And other than that, you haven't had a whole lot of physical laying eyes on something. What about structures up there? You guys find a lot of possible pre-manipulation, stick manipulation?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, we definitely see, a lot of structures, but it's just so hard because, there's a lot of people, kind of in the area during the day. It's just so hard to say that a person didn't do a structure. So for me, like you're talking about vocals for me is like the big thing I like getting, because you can easily put it on a spectrograph and look at it and rule out other animals and rule out other things. And it's a way to record it. And you can really take a scientific approach with it. With structures, like I said, it's just so hard. Unless you just see something that you can absolutely say a person and not do it. But we definitely see structures, but, like I said, nothing that we can definitely say like, Bigfoot did this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's nothing that's put me over the fence on it as far as structures are concerned.
What kind of vocals do you guys get?
Go
Calls,
ahead, Aaron.
grunts, growls.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to say it's really just a long drawn out howl. And we've got this response. I probably have like 10 different audio files of this response. And by no means are we saying this is 100% of Bigfoot, but, it's in the possible, realm of a Bigfoot vocal, right? I mean, you compare to something like the Ohio howl. It's at the same frequency range between like 650 to 800. It's about the same length of vocal as a lot of other Bigfoot vocals, and it sounds very similar. So I would really say it's mostly the long, drawn-out howl. Maybe on one or two other occasions I've heard like, a grunt, but I would say 97% of the time that we hear a vocal, it's a long, kind of drawn-out howl, kind of similar to like the Ohio howl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Me and Bob was in Creepy Hollow. It's a place. This is a place we go. We just call it Creepy Hollow. And we were up in there one night, and I think that was the night that you had to go. You went somewhere else. I can't remember. You was meeting somebody or something. So me and Bob went head down to Creepy Hollow. We got Bob's hunting spot. We were there, and then went to Creepy Hollow. So anyway, we go up in there, and there was just something not sitting well with me or Bob. And you got to understand Bob. Bob doesn't really get freaked out about anything. Bob's a military guy. I mean, and Bob is always packing, and he just doesn't get too scared of anything. And we heard what sounded like, it's just really odd, like a deep guttural growl, but it didn't last very long. It was kind of quick. Yeah. And I looked at Bob and I said, Bob, did you hear that? And I said, I've never heard anything quite like that in the woods. Of course, we don't have bears. Closest bear sightings that we have in Indiana is almost 2 hours south of us by driving. So they, like I said, there was just something weird about that place when we went in there that just, I don't know what it was. And we didn't really talk about it a lot going in there because we don't necessarily like to always admit that we get a little freaked out. But we both went up in there and we heard that growl, and we just decided we'd come back out. Bob was ready to come back out. I was ready to come back out because there's just something that wasn't sitting well with us. But the next time we went back up in there is like any other spot we went to 100 times. That's the only thing that I recall that we've had that sounds growly, like a threat of some sort. But so you guys experience the creepy feels, huh? Oh yeah. Yeah. Not very often, but just something about that night. We've been in there 3, 4, 5 times now, Aaron, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, maybe a little more, give or take.
I haven't noticed it near as bad.
No.
Aaron made a good point one time. He said it's always nice to go in an area in the daylight, and because when you go in that area at night, you feel more comfortable with going in that area at night. I heard him say that one time, and that's a really good point. And everybody might say, well, who goes out at night? Well, 95% of our stuff that we do is at night.
Yeah.
because we're all so busy. I mean, we all work full time with overtime. You know, I work full time, have a side business. Aaron has a side business or establishing a side business / hobby. So we can't hardly get together except on Saturday nights. And I spend most of my Sundays doing church stuff. And that keeps me really busy on Sunday because we go twice on Sunday, and I take care of finances for our church and do a little bit of teaching. And so that keeps me busy. So all we got really is Saturdays. And every once in a while we get out in the daylight, but it's usually late evening and then into the night. And then we're so beat by then, we're done 1 o'clock in the morning. So we don't get any traveling around in the woods done between 1 and 6 a.m. Not much.
Hold on. You lost my train of thought whenever you said that the church trusts you with money and teaching. Seriously? How long have you been going to that church? Do they not know you either?
Since 96.
Look, Jamie takes it seriously. How about smells while you were out? Have you ever caught a whiff of something that maybe possibly could be related to a booger?
Go ahead, Aaron.
So smells, yes. So I'll go back to and Jamie was not. I think I knew Jamie then, but he was not with me that night. I was with my dad and our buddy Chin. We were in this one area, actually very close to where we found the footprint that I was talking about. And our buddy Chin, I believe he did this scream, right? And then I don't know, maybe 30 seconds later, he goes, "Did you hear that?" He's like, "That was a tree knock," and I didn't hear it. Later on, I went back to my audio and I was able to hear it, but you know, he said, I hear a tree knock. And then about 20 seconds later, it was really far away, but about 20 seconds later, we heard probably, just super clear knock, probably about 30 yards from us. And if you were to go over to the tree and hit it as hard as you possibly could, that's how loud it was. It was super loud. Just absolutely, just crazy loud. And it was just wood hitting wood. It wasn't like a tree falling where you could hear the cushion of the leaves or the ground. It was just straight wood hitting wood. And then I don't know, we were all kind of, a little bit alarmed at that point. So I would say about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes later, my dad was like, "What if we took a rock and threw it down in the valley here?" And I was like, "I don't know if that's a good idea." And he just picked up the rock. And right when he picked up the rock, we got the smell that was just very strong. And I would say it smelled like cow manure. And I would say there's probably farms maybe 2 miles away, but there was no wind that night. And it was just right when he picked up the rock, the smell just got really, really strong. And just the look on my eyes got real big, and we all just kind of got in the car. And the thing I remember was when we turned on the car and I turned on the air conditioning, the smell started coming through the air conditioning.
They're getting away from it.
And it was not Jamie, because Jamie was not there.
I wasn't there. I'm not guilty.
I was getting ready to add that in, but y'all beat me to it. So Jamie, Aaron too, you've both been with the Beast guys out at LBL before. What do you think, comparatively? Everybody's got this idea on YouTube and on Facebook that LBL is just chock full of monsters running around there, and there's Bigfoot behind every tree and Dog Man and everything. You've been to LBL. Do you think LBL is an active area? Did you experience anything while you were there?
I haven't. They've had some responses with calls. I would say if there's not any there, there's not any here.
Yeah.
That's just a crazy area. That's huge. Water everywhere, creeks everywhere, places to hide everywhere, bed down. Crazy good water just pumps out of the ground. So
personally, I think laying between the lakes is a really active area. But anytime you get a large group of people together, it's hard to really get any interaction, except for we have had quite a few really good vocal responses out there. We found trackways out there and everything. So why don't we go ahead and play some of the, I think this is it. Yeah. Why don't we go ahead and play some of the vocal stuff you guys have collected on audio, and we'll just let this go. And if you want to talk about, now I've got these all kind of clipped together, so I can pause it in between the clips, but Aaron loaded me up with a bunch of audio clips. It took me a while to go through all this. So we'll play this, and if there's anything in particular you want to talk about, just let me know and we'll pause it. Here we go.
Good.
I have a lens cap on the
What?
What was that? Okay, that wasn't normal.
No. That wasn't Matt.
No, that's not that.
I just slowed to think away from the trucks.
That was way too long to be an owl.
That was over that way.
Does that sound like an owl to you?
A kind of owl? It was just really long.
Yeah, that was way too long. Hear it again.
Is that a coyote? That's gotta be a coyote. Those are coyotes.
No.
It's almost like a combination of animals.
That first one, I don't think was a coyote.
No, hit the white.
I think the ones after that were coyotes.
Sorry, I'm a little cheap.
Oh, you're good.
I was freaking from behind me too. Oh, it's my light again. How did my light come
That
on?
first one is not.
That last one, it either echoed or there was two of them together.
Yeah,
Well-
so that one, if you look at the spectrograph, it is actually just one, but it did seem to echo. There is one in there about midway where you see two lines kind of on top of each other. Those are two individuals. But that last one, to clear, I mean, and just a little bit of background on this. This was October 2021. Jamie was actually not with me that night. But that last vocal was definitely the clearest, and that's a vocal. When we talk about getting responses, a method that we use is call blasting, and that last vocal is the. And Jamie probably recognized that vocal. That's a vocal that I always call blast with, and the success rate with that vocal is. You can ask Jamie. It's probably about 70%. About 70% of the time, I play that in a night. Not every single time. I'm saying I would say 70% of the nights that I play that last vocal, call blasting it, we usually get a response.
Yeah.
So what makes you convinced that those are possible Bigfoot vocals, Aaron?
Obviously we can't say 100% anything, right? Unless you physically see, a Bigfoot making the vocal. But like I said before, it matches the known footprint of a Bigfoot vocal. It's in the right frequency range. You can kind of see the frequency range on the video a little bit, but it's between, I think, 650 to 800 hertz. And if you compare it, I've put it side by side with the Ohio Howl, and it pretty much lines up identical in the same frequency range, almost the same exact frequency. And it's about the same length as each vocal as well. And we're talking about coyotes. Coyotes, usually when a coyote sounds off, there's multiple to begin with. But usually a coyote scream is over 1,000 hertz, little over 1,000 hertz. And these are clearly almost about half of that. So you can clearly tell, when a coyote's going off. And then a lot of times, and it seems like recently we've heard coyotes. And then there was one time, I would say, I think about a month ago, Jamie, we were out we heard a coyote, but we heard something that sounded a little different behind it. And when I went home and I analyzed audio, you could clearly see the coyote sounding off, which was definitely in a whole different frequency range. And then below it, around the 700 range or so, you could see the possible vocal of what we're looking for. So it's usually it's pretty, you're able to distinguish it pretty good from like a coyote. And then then another possibility you have to rule out is people, right? And I think at this point we can definitely rule out a person just based on the frequency of these vocals. I mean, we've probably got at least 10 vocals that basically sound the exact same to this, and within a span of 2 years. And not just this one area. There's an area like we were talking about, Austin led us on to about 4 miles south of this. We got the same vocal. So the chances of a person being even in the same area within the course of 2 years, but not even the same area, but different parts around, doing the same type of call with the consistency that's doing it would, kind of, you're able to rule that out at that point.
The end of those vocals, that last one, is the one that he's recorded and put on the what he uses for like blast out on a call. And he uses the, what's it called, the police horn thing?
Megaphone?
Megaphone. Brain dead for a minute. And but he uses that call on the megaphone, and that's actually what we use.
And something I'll say real quick. Before I thought of using that call on the megaphone, I've used the Ohio Howl before, and I've never got a response from the Ohio Howl, never. And I did it many times. And as soon as I switched to this vocal, we started getting responses, which, if you think about it, makes sense because it's, the type of call that whatever this is, makes here locally. So it's a, kind of like, different areas of the country, different animals have different, it's just like people from different areas of the country have accents or whatever. I would suspect it'd probably be similar when you're dealing with something like this.
I mean, makes sense to me. We got more clips. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, sorry. I don't know who's got a rooster going on there.
No, I heard that.
Hang on, y'all. I've got a honeybee in here. I've got to try to get this thing out of here.
You go, squirrel. Now, I can say from personal experience that some of those on the spectrograph definitely resemble stuff that I've caught before, looking at the vocal signature, the frequency range, the duration of the call, and everything. I mean, to me, some of those definitely look like what we suspect to be a Bigfoot. How far away, on average, whenever you're recording all this stuff, I mean, and you have more, you have more than just that there. How far away do you think these things are when they're sounding off? Whenever you're out there doing the call blasting and you get the response, are they close? Are they far? Because it's hard to tell on the audio looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it sounds like they're really far away. Sometimes the audio recorder doesn't give it any mercy, but we did some testing, and one of the things that we did is Aaron took his megaphone and he went into an area that we nicknamed a clear cut. And me and Bob and Ryan was in a different location, but we were roughly a mile away. And he played that, and I couldn't even hear it at a mile away. But there's a lot of ridges right here, and they kind of whip around. They're not all set up in the same direction. One that splits, so they're just single ridges that kind of go up, and then they kind of all flow out down in the bottom. And we're kind of down in that bottom. And he was even up really high when he did that. So
it was me and Ryan, and then you and Bob were in the different area.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. And so this one area that we frequented the most because we have the best luck there. Yeah, let's not discuss that. That's not the first person that told us that.
Just because y'all had so many audio clips, and in that very first one, somebody in the background in the recording was saying, is it a coyote? Is it an owl? And I understand that. I mean, logically, when a lot of people are exposed to it the first time, a lot of people are like, is that a coyote? To me, it didn't sound anything like owls. And if you ever look at owls on a spectrograph, normally they're kind of like an upside down U.
Yeah.
And they're short, but just to, in case a lot of people aren't familiar with it, I'll show you a fairly decent coyote howl on a spectrogram, just so people can see the difference. And then you can see on the spectrogram, for example, whenever you really start looking into this stuff, depending on how close you are to the source and depending on, what kind of format you record it in and everything. But typically a lot of coyotes, they have this very modulated, like in this case, in this howl right here, what you see is quite possibly probably the alpha male of the pack setting off the initial howl. And then you hear a lot of yips in there coming in directly afterwards. But you can see that the frequency level, typically with coyotes, they're going to start right around 1,000. They can be a little bit under or whatnot, but they're right around 1,000. And then the modulation, the bandwidths go up into the 2,000-ish range. And then, like I said, a lot of times you have the rest of the pack yipping in there behind it. And incidentally, this little clip that I'm playing here, if I let it, I only cut out the coyote section, but a lot of times, as has been the case at LBL, you will see what we think is either a possible booger vocalization that sets them off, or whenever the coyotes start, sometimes you will see a booger vocalization afterwards, a possible one that kind of shuts them up. You guys ever get that when with all the calls? Do you ever have something that sounds like a booger and then afterwards the coyotes get going? Or
actually, the second to last vocal of ours that you played, you can see a coyote vocal on top of it because it's much higher. And a lot of times, like we were saying earlier, we hear, usually it seems to be the coyote first. It's kind of a high pitched sound, and then sometimes it's harder to hear. But like I said, once you put it on a spectrograph, you can clearly see it. it sets it off after the coyotes. It seems like the coyotes usually go off first, but a lot of times there are coyotes in a lot of the calls that we hear.
I know that me personally, I record a lot of the stuff in person. I don't just leave the recorder setting out there. I do in certain areas, but a lot of my captures have been while I'm literally standing right there holding the recorder. And I can tell you that personally, in my own opinion, it's pretty easy to tell the difference whenever you're standing there in person and you hear it. You can't necessarily prove it right then at that second because you haven't put on a spectrogram yet, but just to your own ear while you're standing there, there's something about it that just does not sound like a distant coyote or another indigenous animal right there whenever you hear it in person. And now you guys do have videos though, and I am sorry I didn't get them up here. And Aaron, you have them on your channel. What's the name of your channel? We'll put a link down in here, but
yeah, it's Squatch Holler.
Just Squatch Holler on YouTube, huh?
Yes.
And the videos are what, tracks? I think I've seen a video of y'all finding a track, haven't I?
Yeah, that was in an area that Austin Collins from Ohio, that was the area that he located, and we had some responses there. And then I would say maybe a month later, a couple weeks later, we went down that area and we found what appeared to be some tracks. And Jamie's given his commentary on them in the video. But so we have that track video. I'm trying to do some more like audio analyzing videos where we're looking at audio. Some of that audio we just played on a spectrograph. And then there's a couple videos just from, like in a night investigation that we went up on this ridge and got a possible call.
Yeah, the tracks, we got the howls out of this area when Austin was here. It's the area that Austin picked out. So we went back the next Saturday. Aaron was couldn't be there. I can't even remember why. It was around December, beginning of December. So me and Bob went back in there, and we had just come out of it was kind of still going on. It was really dry up here. We really struggled this past fall with rain. It was super dry. So all the lake levels and stuff were dropping. So we walked on down in this area where I believe the howls to come out of from the week before. And me and Bob was standing there and just kind of looking around. And so we start walking the mud. I said, well, let's walk some of the mud and see if we can find anything. So that we did. So we come across some of those tracks. And what was odd about these tracks is what time of year, this kind of thinking of the things that would take out that it would be a human. It was cold. You can see in the video by what we're wearing. And the week before, it was just as cold. And the area that it is, and it's not that easy to get to. Some of it's private property. You really have to watch the maps whenever you go down in there. So when we went down in there, another reason that we stayed on the lakeside is because technically speaking, that is property of the Department of which one? We got three different ones.
What are you doing? You trying to get my channel flagged? Shush, shush,
No.
shush.
Anyway, we'll say one of those departments. I mean, it was legal. I mean, we weren't doing anything illegal. So we knew if we stayed on public property. So we stayed where the lake was down. So technically we were walking in the lake. So to avoid the private property, because there's like a stretch of private property. We wanted to go through that whole area, but we couldn't walk across the private property. So we walked on the lake property. So anyway, while we're moseying down through there, I told Bob, this would be a good place to look for tracks. So we come across some tracks. Well, my first thought was, well, we're not the only ones walking out here, but I don't see no boot tracks. I don't see any hints of boot tracks, but the tracks that we do see, there's a couple issues with the tracks. They were a lot deeper than what ours were. And when I say a lot deeper, I'd say about 10 times deeper than what ours were. but that doesn't mean that it wasn't somebody that was there they're not 2 weeks old. I would guess about a week old, roughly. So we start looking at these tracks, and I start asking a bunch of questions, and there's a whole bunch more questions that I wish I would have asked and myself to talk about in the video, and I didn't think about it. But what we did talk about is the tracks we come across, they had taken on some rain. So there's no form on the bottom of the foot in the tracks because it had rained and some of the mud had settled in it. There just wasn't nothing there. And a little bit of it had collapsed into the hole. That's the first set of tracks the first tracks that we found. And there's about a half a mile between these sets of tracks we found. So we're looking at them, and I'm looking at them. We come across these ones, and they're 12 inches long. They're only 3 inches wide, which I find extremely weird. I have no idea what they are. I'm not claiming I know what they are. And I'll be honest with you, if I don't really know I'm telling you, I'm not even sure it was a Bigfoot track. I don't think it was, but I don't know what it was. But it was 12 inches long. They're about 3 inches wide. And even where it broke the surface, the initial surface of going down in the footprint, there's no really good visible toe tracks, a little bit maybe, but I don't know if it's three-toed. I don't know. I just don't know. They're just weird, and there's a bunch of them. So there's another set that's with it that looks about the same. So it's the 4-minute video. It's on Aaron's YouTube channel, and you can go there and watch that video. So I stopped the video. I was like, there's tons of tracks out here. Well, those tracks stopped. We lost tracks for half a mile. So we go roughly about another half a mile. We do come across some tracks, but they're only about 8 inches, but they're pretty wide. They're around 5 inches. It's been cold. And I wear a 10.5 boot. I'm about 6'1" when I stand up straight, which I never do. And so there was some regular prints there that could have easily been human. It would probably been, my guess would be, a pretty overweight person leaving those tracks because they were so wide, but they're about 8 inches. And it was kind of cool. But even with those tracks, they were washed out pretty good. But with the second set of tracks, which is like the video, it's a little longer than a minute, where it broke the initial surface.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. And where it broke the initial surface, you could see the toe marks. So those were good. But once again, the bottoms of them, there was just nothing. But there was a weirdest curve in those long tracks. It was kind of a weird thing. But and I didn't cast them because there's just no foot definition on the bottom. If I cast an 8-inch track that has no foot definition on the bottom, it's 5 inches wide, and brought them home and showed them to everybody or all my buddies or whatever, they would think I was an idiot. I mean, they literally would, because there just wasn't enough foot definition there for me to spend time to cast it. I know why he's doing this. He knows I do not like Dogman. I don't even like talking about Dogman.
Gugway isn't Dogman. Gugway is supposed to be that really aggressive, nasty-looking booger.
They got a face like one, though, I think.
Yeah, I think they supposedly have a more. Yeah, I think. I can't keep up with all that stuff, nor do I try to. The whole Dogman thing. Yeah. What do y'all think of Dogman? Hold on. What do you think of Dogman?
Go ahead, Aaron.
You got to draw a line somewhere, right? So I definitely draw it before Dogman.
So you believe in boogers, but not Dogman.
I haven't seen any evidence of Dogman that would convince me at this point.
I tell you what, part of the reason I am very reluctant to talk about it, well, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. But part of the reason that I'm so cringy on the subject is because, man, I'm going to tell everybody on YouTube, I don't care. I know of some really, really, really reputable people that have told me firsthand some of the stuff that they've seen, and I know them, and there ain't no way that I question what they say. And I just don't even want to think about it. And if some of them people are like, I've seen evidence of it or I've had a visual sighting, it just, it puts me in a very uncomfortable position, because that is the last damn thing I want to see when I'm in the woods. But that's just my thoughts on it. What do you think? What do you think boogers are? What do you think that they are?
Aaron?
Well, I would say, if Bigfoot exists, I would say it's a flesh and blood animal. I have, a lot of people go the paranormal route, and I haven't seen anything or experienced anything that would say that it's paranormal related by any means. I mean, I don't know if a paranormal entity would be leaving the physical evidence that people find.
Okay, I got an argument with the paranormal. What about the red lights?
Hear this.
What about the red lights?
What red lights? Have you seen red lights?
So I know a couple
Or
of
a
people
red
have
light.
seen a red light, and I had seen a red light on the other side of the lake once as well. But I mean, it's hard knowing if your eyes are just playing tricks on you. But multiple people have seen these red lights.
They keep seeing a single red light, and I keep missing it, and it's irritating because I do want to see it. I have not seen it. Ryan's seen it. Bob's seen it. You've seen it. The only other thing that, from a paranormal standpoint, is one night we parked by a graveyard at this one area we go to, literally right beside the graveyard.
Yes, Greg.
Yeah, right. And he's right there with me. I don't even want to even think about it. But anyway, we parked right beside the graveyard, literally. And in 20 steps, I can be standing on the graveyard. Ryan had something that happened to him one night. There's a little bit of a bank there, and he come down the bank, and he goes, "Were you just right there beside me?" And I go, "No, I've been down here." And he goes, "Did you guys cough?" And I go, "No." So he goes over and he asks Aaron. Aaron was getting stuff out of the car. So he asked Aaron, he said, "Did you cough?" And he goes, "No, I don't think so." He goes, "Were you just right beside me?" We were like, "Well, where was you at?" He goes, "Well, I was up on the bank by the graveyard." I'm like, "No, we ain't been up there." And he goes, "We were sitting there kind of listening." And he goes, "I looked down the hill to you guys, and there was a dark mass there." And then he said, when I did a double take, it was gone. And I said, "Well, I didn't see anything like that," but he came down that bank pretty quick, because he kind of walked down there like something startled him a little bit, And Ryan is he's one of the new guys that started coming with us for about the last couple months. And but that was kind of a weird deal. I have no reason to think he made it up, but he's like, "I don't know, maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me." But the red light thing's real. We've had 3 different occasions, 3 different people, and except me, I haven't seen it.
So, do people compare it to eye shine or orbs, or, I mean, what?
It's so quick. That's the problem.
It's quick. It's just a small red light. I would say it's more like an orb than anything else.
But it's so quick, we can't tell if it's moving or anything. I'll take that back. Ryan said he's seen it moving to the west, but it was really quick.
And did anybody say, does it look like it's emitting light? Does it look like it's just, I mean, what does it look like? Does it look like a tiny little red dot?
Yes.
All right. Well, I mean, a lot of people talk about, only seeing one eye whenever they're talking about eye shine, whether it be a booger turning its head or possibly tree peeking or whatnot, So, but who knows? I mean, red is obviously the common color in the Bigfoot world. I've never seen red eye shine myself, so I can't really comment on it. Anything other than that makes you think there might be anything paranormal or supernatural going on, or is that the only thing?
Aaron
I've
has
heard.
one.
I've I may not know what you're talking about, Jamie, unless you're talking about the night that I already talked about that story, the tree knock and the smell. But other than that, there's been a couple instances where a couple people I've been with have all said the same thing. Like you hear what sounds like almost like children talking in the woods. I've heard that personally a couple times.
Yeah, that's creepy, ain't it?
Yes.
And your dad witnessed that too. Remember that?
Yeah, you weren't with us that night, but me and my dad were out, and we both heard what sounded like children talking. And there was another night we were with Chin, and we heard the same thing. And Chin is completely against paranormal, more so than Jamie even is. And that really creeped him out. But just hearing what sounds like children talking is a little creepy.
Paranormal doesn't necessarily scare me or talk about it or whatever, but I don't give much heed to it. I have no desire to give no heed to it, and I'm not going to give it any credit because I think it can be dangerous. I've heard of people having stuff attached to them or drag stuff home with them, and I don't want to be dragging anything home to my family.
So you give it credence in the sense that you believe it could be real, but you don't want to vocally say it or invite it or whatnot, right? Okay, well, I mean, hey, I'm good with that. That's how I feel about Dog Man.
Hey, you're right.
Huh?
He's right. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing and you get out messing around with stuff like that, it's an easy way to get something attached to you. You don't just mess around with stuff if you don't know what's going on. I mean, I know we do it Bigfooting, but paranormal, I'm telling you can very easily get an attachment.
Yeah. And the way I figure, if it has to do with people that are dead, God says respect the dead. So I respect the dead. Just leave it alone. So
I can't argue with that. Joe's on here, the Squatching Cowboy. How's it going, Joe? Need to get Joe on the channel. He's had a run of bad luck. His area, they're starting to charge for admission to go to some of the sites that he goes to researching, which would really suck. Anyway, guys, you got you got any future plans? Do you have like areas that you want to hit and go to? You've been looking at it and you're like, I think this spot here. Do you have any outings that you're planning or anything?
Yeah, we're planning a camp out. I don't know exactly when we're going to do it this year, but I've got to make a trip which is kind of a long trip, but I've got to talk to a gentleman to see if he'll allow us to park on his property and cross his property to get to an area, because it's such an incredible walk to. Like if you're going to go in and camp for 2 or 3 days or 4 or whatever, you're going to have quite a bit of stuff to pack, and it's really rough, but it's really a long ways. That doesn't matter to me, but I'm hoping that he'll let us park on him and we can cross his property and go to it to shorten the trip considerably. So it looks like roughly it'll cut us down to about a 1.5 mile walk. But this guy lives out in the middle of nowhere, and he's got like 3 neighbors, and they live in this tiny town that kind of isn't a tiny town. It used to be a town, and it's not anymore. You know what I mean? It's one of them little towns that just kind of everybody moved away. But
nobody knows what you mean. It's a tiny.
I know exactly what he means.
A tiny town that isn't a tiny town, and you're going to park on the guy. No.
Well, if you call it a town, it at least needs to have a general store. In my book.
Did you tell this guy that you want to park on his land so you can go in there and look for Bigfoot?
No, I used to work on his phone a few years ago. He in the area that I worked, and he was a really nice guy. And he gave me a book to read and about his personal life and this and that and the other. And I didn't read it. But he's a really nice guy and he signed it. So I probably need to read the book before I go over there because he's going to say, you want to park here?
That, Jamie.
Tell me about that book I let you give you and sign. Did you read it? What did you think about it? So now I got to sit down and read this book before we go over there, and I don't want to read it.
Greg wants to know what the most unnerving or scariest thing you've had happen is.
Aaron, go ahead.
The story I told earlier about the smell would definitely be up there. My first ever weird or scary experience. Okay, I would say two. So first would be this was early on when I started kind of doing the Bigfoot research thing. I was in this one area, very close to where I found the track. With my girlfriend, it was just me and her back there. It just got dark. I did a howl or scream, and something responded, and it sounded almost like a person. But there's no, I mean, it's a very remote area, and there's no cars back there. My girlfriend even said that sounded like a person. And I was like, "Where's the person? Like, there's no vehicle. Like, I don't know where the person would be." It almost sounded like something imitating an owl, but it was very like it was really the only time I've heard something that close where like your instincts tell you like that's something that can like hurt you or something that's not normal. So we got out of there. Second time I was in a different area with my girlfriend. It was just me and her, and I heard something fly over my head. And actually I have the audio recording where you can clearly hear something like a whooshing sound, like going by the recorder. And it was pretty scary because when I heard it, like I kind of saw something corner of my eye. It just got dark, like the tree moving, and I heard something and I got spooked, and we left, and my girlfriend did not hear it, but I went home and I played it on my recorder. I'm like, you hear that? And her eyes got real big and she was like, what is that? And it was just funny because you were there, Jamie. I played it for Ryan like a month ago. And he was, remember his eyes got real big. He's like, what is that?
Yeah.
And I think we have to mention, Jamie, I'll let you talk about it, but the one area we went to, Bob and Chin thought that they saw something.
Yeah, that was a clear cut.
Yeah.
I actually have it on my phone. I didn't think about that, but I mean, you can't see anything on the video. It was too late then by the time I filmed it, but I got the camera going, or got the phone going with the camera on it. Started recording just in case we'd pick something else up. But we seen this area on Google Maps, and so we wanted to go in there and find it. And it was raining that one day, so we used mapping and found out where it was at. Finally get there. We're standing on the bank, and it looked like right where we were standing on to my left. If I think about it, I'll post it. I'll have Aaron post it on his YouTube. Well, it looked like some weird stacked sticks on a log. And keep in mind, we're pretty good. What is that? A mile? That's a mile back in the woods. Yeah. Clear cut's a mile. And it just kind of caught my attention, and I started looking at this area, and it was clear cut 6-8 years ago, and it is thick. I mean, when it grows up in there, you can't get, I don't mean, you can't even get through it. I don't even know how a booger would even get in there and get through it, but it's a big ravine. It's full of treetops. And you wouldn't dare try to crawl through there in the summertime because that place is loaded with copperheads. And I mean, loaded with copperheads. So was it Bob that said something first? Bob said, I think it was
who. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember.
So anyway, Bob says something about he sees something. So it's way up on the upper end of this clear cut. We're kind of down on the lower end a little bit. And so about that time, Chin piped up and he goes, well, I thought I seen something up there too. So then they start comparing what areas they seen it in. And they were both right in the same area, right one little spot. There's like a sapling poplar tree that's grown up a little taller than everything else. And that's both where they seen it. But Chin, one of them said it looked like they moved to the left, and the other one said it looked like it moved to the right. But so I don't know what they seen, but that was kind of cool. But
They described it as something with like black, right? It was like black.
Yeah, just
fur,
all
black
dark,
hair.
dark colored.
Yeah.
Just whatever it was, a dark color. But keep in mind, for us to be able to see that, dude, it would have had to have been at least 6 foot tall. I mean, that stuff
Right,
in
because
there
it's
was
high.
tall
Right.
and thick, and then
Yeah.
that was summertime too. So, and maybe since it was raining, we were able to be a little quieter going in there. But that sure wasn't the case this past summer. Man, it was dry. Nope.
That would be the closest to a visual.
Yeah, that'd be the closest. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah,
The
but
only-
you know, you guys are far from being alone. If the most you've seen is like something black moving in between trees, I mean,
Mhm.
you know, there's so many people that do this that have all kinds of possible interaction, but still don't really lay eyes on one of these things.
Right.
I've
We've
never
tried.
seen one.
Go ahead.
No, I've never seen one. We get, all kinds of different vocals and whatever, but as far as just seeing one, I've never seen one either. I've seen shadows, but that's as far as it gets for me too. So
Well, that's what everybody wants, though. Preferably about 70 or 80 yards in front of my truck while that's how I want to have it happen. But beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
guys, we're at about an hour and a half. But before we get off here, I have to ask, being in Indiana, do y'all have barbecue up there? Does anybody barbecue up there?
people have barbecue everywhere, Spencer.
I don't believe that because I don't agree with everybody's definition of barbecue. People in Alaska probably are like, they think barbecue just means grilling something on the grill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
We have barbecue places up here.
Are they any good?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think they're really good. I've eaten barbecue in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, and it.
Oh, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's competitive with that. I mean, they're mom and pop places though. It's not chains.
Uh-huh. And do you like it?
Oh, I love barbecue. My beef brisket's my favorite.
Oh, now you're speaking my language right there.
Yeah, no, I see you posting that crap on there all the time. I'm sitting there hungry.
Not lately. Not lately. Not late. Aaron, you like barbecue?
I do like barbecue. There's a couple barbecue places that we go to sometimes when we go out, and barbecue's top 5 favorite food for me for sure.
Really? Do you ever take the boogers any barbecue? Maybe you would get awesome results. I mean, I'm not doing it because I'm not spending $100 on a brisket to go and give it to a dang booger. But have y'all done it?
No.
No,
Maybe
no.
something to think about.
It really is, but it all comes down to distance and when we have access to get there.
Actually, what I was just saying, do you take anything out? Do you ever gift? Do you ever leave any kind of candy bar?
I'll tell you a funny story. So there's one time we were out with someone who was doing the gifting thing, and they said they left it was like a fruit pie on a tree stump somewhere, and Jamie looked at him and said, "Where'd you leave it? I'm hungry."
Yeah. Jamie and Larry. I
was gonna say the big spot lover who got to it first.
Yeah.
Well, in all honesty, I mean, you hear some people talk about gifting with food, and I'm not talking about like leaving the marbles or anything, but with food specifically. You hear some people talk about it where they get apparently amazing results. I never have. And then you hear other people really admonish it and say that you shouldn't do that in any way, shape, or form. As kind of like somebody had a question earlier about, it was Mark talking about, have you ever had them show up at your home? And coincides with what I'm saying is you hear other people say, don't leave food out because, it's possible that the things end up following you home or become aggressive if you don't bring food. So I don't know if it's smart or not smart to leave food out, but Jamie's muted. I don't know if he did that. Oh, he did that on his own. He must be getting a work-related call. Oh, yep. And if you didn't know it, if you think things aren't scary enough with what we talked about on this show, Jamie works for a telecommunication company and probably has the ability to listen to other people's phone conversations. So that's some scary shit right there on top of everything else.
No, I can't do that.
Huh? Of course
No.
you would say that you can't do that.
Well, I mean, I could, but I could also go to jail for that, and most definitely lose my job. So
some things probably shoulda, coulda, woulda. Anyway, hey, thank you, Rusty Lewis. I do appreciate that. And I saw where you said Texas barbecue. Yeah, man, I'm there with you, brother. Texas got some kick-ass barbecue. Anyway, not that I've ever had any of their barbecue, but I know a lot of people from Texas, and I've seen a lot of them on the competition circuit, and definitely they win a lot, so they must have really good barbecue. Then again, I've competed and I've never won anything, and I know I have awesome barbecue, so maybe the competitions are rigged. I don't know. Anyway, I still think highly of Texas and barbecue. Oh, let me see. I got to figure out where that's the one I'm looking for. So before we get out of here, if anybody has anything they want to talk about, and thank you very much to everybody that did actually email me to make sure my email works. A bunch of people were smart asses about it, being like, here's an email just to prove that it works. Ginter there was one of them. But
Good job.
It does indeed work. But if you have something you would like to talk about, Bigfoot related, you want to be on the show, if you know of anything happening in your area and you want to give me the inside scoop on it, please do email me. And also, thanks to everybody for showing up in the chat. I don't know if I missed saying hi to everybody. Actually, quite a few people. Hey, I appreciate everybody showing up and checking it out and everything. So like and subscribe, all the stuff that everybody else on YouTube channels say. I'm not a YouTube person. I always forget to say like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. But with my extended family of Mark and Larry being back on doing their regular shows, I don't know if we'll necessarily do this every single Sunday. Probably for the next little while, because I got other people I want to talk to and everything. Thank you, Gary, for showing. That's Aaron's channel. I think that it is right there.
Yeah.
Ain't it, Aaron?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. So check out Aaron's channel, of course. Like the Sawdust Beast page on Facebook, and you can see all of us hanging out on there and commenting and posting stuff and everything. The Beast TV YouTube channel, Mark and Rebecca Green's channel, Cedar Creek Bottoms Farmstead Life. Don't forget to check out Chris Reinhardt with Discover Sasquatch. I love Cam Buckner and Dixie Cryptids, and y'all probably will too if you don't ever watch them. I can't imagine anybody in the Bigfoot field that doesn't check out Dixie Cryptid. I mean, and I'm sure there's other people I'm forgetting to mention and everything, but whatever, I'll think of them next week. And y'all got any closing comments? Anything else you want to discuss before we bounce?
No, I'm in pretty good shape. Thanks for having us, and be looking forward to our next camp out.
Yeah,
Thank you guys for coming on, and those are really good vocals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron's the man.
I mean, he's going to those areas.
He's our techie guy. He's a tech support guy too. So he's really. This is one of the good things about it is we can literally get a vocal in the woods. He jumps in the car, rips his laptop open, puts it on a spectrogram, and 4 or 5 minutes we got the results.
Aaron's like Bigfoot CSI.
You'll be sitting there looking at him. He'll hold his hand up out the window, go, "We're good."
That is right, Greg. In case, man, thank you so much for bringing that up. Just so y'all know, Kumbo actually had a vehicular accident, an automotive accident, not that long ago, and kind of messed up some vertebrae in his back, and he's dealing with that. And I think he has to go to a neurosurgeon actually to get the stuff fixed. And he's, he's in some discomfort and not feeling himself and everything. So thoughts and prayers for Kumbo, if you would, because we certainly don't want nothing bad to happen to that man. He's kind of the godfather of Bigfooting at this point. But anyway, so yeah. And if you're friends with him, reach out and, show some love. Pray for Tony and family as well. Are you talking about, you're talking about Tony, our Tony on the Beast page? And I thought Jeff Townsend was doing better right now, but certainly everybody. I mean, hey, when you're saying your prayers, count all these people. I'll have to look in and see if everything's okay with Tony. I didn't hear anything about that. Jeff Townsend, I think, is on the mend. I'm not positive about that. But again, if you're friends with them on Facebook and you whatever, you're on Facebook, stop and check in on them. Guys, y'all, it never hurts. You never know what's going to happen to somebody. It never hurts to just reach out to people that you are friends with and check in on them and see how's it going and make sure that everybody is doing good and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not particularly a sappy person, but I hate it whenever, rough times are falling on my friends and everything. So I guess just the moral of the story is be nice to people and think about people and be caring and all that kind of stuff. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. Be more
not at all. Spencer's an asshole.
Misty.
Sorry.
All right. We're going to bounce out of here. Y'all take care. We will talk to you next time, right? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys
See you, Mr. Suspense.
See you guys.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Swipe and steal.